All right, first topic, and these are all video topics tonight. First topic is, why does government tolerate white terrorism? Here we go. Bag of white dicks.
It's been 3 weeks, and can you believe these jerk-off Bundy guys are still in Oregon, held up in Burns, in the federal building that they took over with their weapons? 3 frickin' weeks. You know how much it's costing now? The state of Oregon says it costs them $100,000 a week. They got to have all the cops out there. There's all this overtime. There's all these different things that go to support this, because we're all waiting for the guys to surrender. I got a great idea on how to surrender in a second. For the federal government, well, you had the 120 guys who are permanent and temporary employees of the Bureau of Land Management office, the office that they took over. Well, they can't go to work. That's costing the federal government a minimum of $125,000 in administrative leave alone. So the costs are mounting and mounting. And as I'm reading this story, I come across just this throwaway line. Oh, by the way, quote, they collect donations, including soup and jerky. What? That's why they've been up there for 3 weeks. We're pampering these guys. They took over a federal building, armed to the teeth, saying if cops came in, they're going to shoot them. Are you kidding me? We're letting them get donations? That's why they got that bag of dicks the other day, literally, right? And they got all this mail. Why are we delivering them mail? They're fighting against the United States government. Why is the U.S. government using the U.S. Post Office to deliver them anything, even if it's a bag of dicks? No soup for you. So here's the answer. And how we end this immediately. We starve them out. I don't mean kill them. I don't want to go in there guns blazing. I don't want these clowns to die. They're a bunch of losers. They're mainly drunk all day. They're breaking stuff. They're costing even more money. But here, look, if anyone else, Muslims take over a federal building and saying we'll shoot anybody who comes in, Black Panthers take over a building, a Latino gang takes over, anyone but someone who is white and right-wing takes over a federal building armed, threatening to shoot people, we don't deliver them fucking soup and jerky, okay? Can you imagine if Obama did that, if Muslim radicals had taken over? Oh, he's serving them chicken soup for the terrorist soul, right? But these guys get it all the time. So here's an easy idea. And I did a Facebook Live on this. You should check that out. Facebook.com/JenkUgerOfficial, right? I'm doing live tweets. And you guys came up with a great idea. My idea was to starve them out. And you guys said in the comments, hey, dude, turn off the power. And then I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, they still have power. It's freezing up there. All you got to do is turn the power off. They're going to freeze their ass off on the first night. These bitches are going to come in and be like, okay, please, we surrender. By the way, when they surrender, federal law makes it a felony with a sentence of up to 10 years for anyone who converts to his use government property worth over $1,000 without authorization. That is to the T exactly what they did. They should definitely get 10 years. I mean, if they walk out of this without an unconditional surrender and lolly, like they did last time, Cliven Bundy still owes the government $1 million. He stole $1 million that anybody else would have to pay under his conditions. And he walked away with it because he pointed guns at cops. Well, no, this cannot stand. Easy solution. No more fucking food for you. You want to be a tough guy patriot, ironically, as you commit treason against the U.S. government? You don't get to call yourself an American or a patriot if you're against America. Okay, well, then sad day for you. No food, no deliveries, and no power. Good luck to you, brother. I hear you're going to survive in the woods and you're going to fight against the government. This is your big chance, big guy. Have at it, Hoss. Let me see how you do in the winter cold. Freezing the fuck out of there. Those bitches will surrender overnight. Oh, okay. That's what's going to happen. And then you throw their ass in prison for 10 years. That's my final judgment.
So a couple points I would like to bring up is, like, how does Cenk know this is not already happening? And we already know the latest developments where they had a shootout and one of those militia people, they died, right? So Levoy. Mm-hmm. But Cenk's point that it costed $100,000 per week, okay? So we say, what, it's been 3 or 4 weeks now, so it's $300,000 to $400,000 plus $125,000 for administration leave, right, to help out with the siege, if you want to call it that. Now, where is Cenk?
Is that per week or total? 125,000 for
It's
administrative.
I think it's total. Cenk didn't really hit that point.
No, he said. I think he said per day.
No,
Per
it was-
day.
I don't even think he said per
Yeah.
day. No, he just said so far. I could be wrong. You could be right, Grant.
How's it Wait, wasn't the station they took over unused?
I don't know.
No, it was the holidays. So it was.
Oh, okay.
It was unoccupied when people. I did a
what
little
it
bit of
was.
research on this.
Yeah, what happened was it's the Fish and Wildlife employees. They were not on hand when the militia group arrived. They are the facts, at least that I know of. And an email obtained by the Oregon Public Broadcasting stated that all lake staff employees are now safely out of harm's way. And you need to remember this is a rural area. There was not many people in the area that they could basically harm. But my point, real quick, and you can go.
Yeah,
Paul,
that's what I'm saying. Like, who the fuck are they really affecting taking over the building? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, they're
like,
not harming
how many people
individuals.
have they actually hurt supposedly with this?
None
That's
that
what
I'm
trying to
aware
figure
of.
out with his thing.
None that I'm aware of. But to expand on my point here is, okay, all this cost, so it's 300-400, so it's like over a little bit over $500,000. But what I want to ask Cenk is, where was Cenk being against Ferguson, Missouri, following the shooting or the fatal shooting of the 18-year-old Michael Brown, where so far it has cost taxpayers $5.7 million. These are facts, and I'll post that link down below in the description box when this video comes out. But why is Cenk so angry when it comes to covering this story? But when it comes to Black Lives Matters and the rioting, it seems like he's not too pissed off about it.
Oh,
Anything
Black
can
Lives
answer that
Matter.
Yeah.
I can
You mean like when in Minnesota, he's talking about freezing those fuckers up. Freeze those fuckers right out. The fucking winter's coming. They won't know what's coming. They'll freeze to death. How about the people in Minnesota? Huh? How about them that they were there shutting down a goddamn street, shut down multiple blocks in front of a fucking police station, vandalizing the police station, throwing Molotovs, throwing rocks, destroying police property. How about that? Where was his outrage on that? Where is his outrage for them taking government property and using it for their own use? Why isn't he railing against them? Why aren't they going to jail? Why doesn't he round them all up and throw them in fucking jail? They committed a felony, didn't they?
Exactly.
Where's the outrage, Cenk?
God damn it, Paul.
Yeah. Anthony, I think you want to touch on this.
Oh, no, I watched various things online. I watched, like, the protests and shit, and I watched how the TYT is going to handle it, and of course they're going to race bait and be fucking biased about it.
Correct.
And they're like, oh, yeah. When the only time they mention it is when people got shot, and even then it's murky because it may have been self-defense in that case.
Yeah.
But they, of course, portray it as white race just come to shoot up the protesters and just because they're protesting, not because they chased them and fucking assaulted them.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Anthony?
Yeah, I watched Cenk's piece on it, which I don't know if the Young Turks have covered this story properly or not, but I watched Cenk's link on it, and then I watched Vice News's like 15-minute kind of almost a documentary on it, and you get to understand what this is all about. Because unless you actually pay attention to these things and find out what this Oregon thing is all about, it's basically a land grab is what these people think it is.
Correct.
From the federal government.
Yeah.
And the way Vice covered it, they listened to both sides, and people then basically presented the article to say you can make your own mind up. There's the Bundy family came in and tried to protect the Hammond family, who were basically these a father and son that were going to get put in prison for maybe 10 years or something.
Yeah, for the fire. Right?
Yeah, well, they said arson, which I don't know if that
minimum.
was. Yeah, I'm not too sure what the arson thing was. It was. I get
What
the
happened
impression that
is-
was like a controlled burn. That
Yeah,
wasn't-
It was a
controlled
controlled
burn,
burn that apparently got out of hand, and so out of hand that it burnt not even more than 200 acres of fucking land.
The BLM
And so out of
yeah.
hand that it actually improved the government's value of the land.
Correct.
But
Yep.
they actually had already served time for it. What happened is because the government said, well, it's not enough time. We're going to try you under this different statute that's for fucking terrorism. And because you were part of an arsonist group who, destroyed federal land through terrorism and arson, we're going to charge you under the statute that says a minimum of 5 years. So the time you serve, not good enough. You got to go to jail for 5 years minimum.
Yeah, my point about the video, and then we can go to Grant, is that Cenk just wants to talk about the fact that he thinks it's white terrorism.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not. If you listen to this story, these are. I'm not saying that I agree with what they've done or anything like that, but they're not
Correct,
terrorists by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, these people do want a dialogue. They're not. they want to talk about things. And I'm not saying that their point is valid. I'm not saying what they're trying to achieve is even valid, although I think it is from the point of the ranchers. Because I've lived in America long enough to know how important these things are to certain people.
Absolutely.
And people in Europe and stuff won't really get it because you can't buy land in Europe, really, because there isn't any to buy. So
No, it's very well said there, Anthony. Good points there. Grant, you want
Not even
anything?
that,
Go ahead, Paul,
Hey,
real quick.
hey,
Paul.
Yeah, go ahead, Grant.
Hey, Paul,
Okay.
did they do it twice? Didn't they end up burning on federal lands twice?
I think they did.
Yeah, it was
I think
twice,
It's the second
yeah.
one. The second one they're getting in trouble for.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
More so.
Just to go off of what Anthony said, the first thing that you grab right off the bat, you look at the title when it says, "Why does government tolerate white terrorism?" He's immediately trying to push it over to white terrorism when they haven't harmed anyone in their whole occupation.
And who are they terrorizing? You know what I mean? Themselves or cops or FBI? I'm like, it just
The federal government.
the fair.
they're not
yeah.
actually, but they're not actually terrorizing anybody.
Yeah.
They walked into an empty federal building that was vacant for Christmas.
Yeah,
So they walked
unoccupied,
in,
yeah.
took control, and then people obviously found out about it. Now, I would encourage people to watch the Vice article on it because it's very informative and it gives you an idea of what the residents of that county think of what's going on as well. I mean, if you cut it down to the quick, it's a really a non-story. It should have never really been a story.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, it is important. I'm not saying it's important, but it shouldn't have garnered the national attention that it did. It's only garnered some attention because of people like the Young Turks.
Correct. Yeah, I believe that. And the funny thing about that is Cenk doesn't realize what the process is when it comes to something like this. You know what I mean? They're not harming people. There's no residents around where they can harm. They're not harming any workers because there was no workers there. But Cenk doesn't realize that, the FBI has learned in the past where you can't just go into the thick of things to just start shooting up the place. If they did that, it'd be another Waco siege. You know what I mean? We would
It's
see
almost
something
like they
there, so.
wanted that to happen.
Well, yeah, Young Turks, And what do you think
Yeah.
about the point of Cenk trying to equate, if it was Muslims or blacks or Hispanics that took over that
Pointless.
area?
An absolute
It's pointless.
it's
It's a non-issue. It's irrelevant.
completely.
So-
There's absolutely no equivalence. You're talking about, Northern American farm ranchers that are pissed off with the federal government encroaching on their land and taking it over.
Yeah.
To Muslims, I mean, there is no. That's just. I mean, if that isn't blatant as it needs to be, I don't know what is.
Well, that's Cenk's game plan. That's what he
Yeah.
does on a lot of issues when it pertains to stuff like this. Is he tries to equate like Christianity or blacks or Muslims, and that's what they're all about, man. They're about that, PC liberal bullshit that we see. Now, I consider myself a liberal, no doubt, but the regressives out there, we have to hear these talking points that are just irrelevant. That they bring up like, oh, good point, Cenk. No, it's not a good point. It's irrelevant, and you really can't. You don't know what would happen if something like that happened with other demographics. It's just sad.
Well, yeah, that's why I bring up Minnesota and I say it's more race baiting hypocrisy on his part because he's going to do it. What if the black people were in the building? What if it was Muslims? Well, okay.
They would've
What if
blown
it
each
was
other
this? There's things that happen all over the United States that
Yeah.
are excused away because they are black or because they're Muslim, and sure, because they are white. You're talking about you have to take each situation as it develops. You have to actually look into what the situation is, and he actually. For me, he hasn't done any fucking research on this thing. He never does any research. What he does is he goes to the shit places like Raw Story, other places, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post. He takes everything there without a grain of salt. Everything is the literal truth to him with those websites. He regurgitates it and he says it's news when it's a bad opinion and commentary on it.
And he
adds
does
his own race baiting and his own fuck everything that isn't like us, right?
Yeah,
right.
Joe,
As progressive as us,
anti-white
as progressive
agenda.
as us, right?
Yeah, that is just that story. Basically, there was a fuck America point.
Yeah.
Fuck America and fuck whites.
It's exactly what it comes down to.
Click those 2 points off.
Coming from a guy,
Yeah, the funny thing.
coming from a guy that was on stage, that we're going over statistics about the white demographic in America, and say, yeah, by 2050, whites are going to be a minority, and the crowd was cheering that clip. I think,
that was
AIU,
definitely-
posted a
But
clip
like,
that.
okay,
It's
I was
just like,
telling
what the
you,
fuck, man?
I was telling you guys, I'm taking courses, and one of the first things we talked about was Trail of Tears and how, surprise, surprise, and the federal government decided that fuck it, we're just going to take the land from them. And people aren't realizing, kind of similar situation nowadays, but when these people are doing it, they're fucking terrorists for trying to resist or trying to be citizens with firearms and maybe resist if they have to. Yeah. But the people who were inheriting their lands for thousands of years, who were swept aside. They are horrible victims, and of course the white oppressors, white manifest destiny, all this shit. It all comes back up. So to me, it's like, well, you got to remember history repeats itself. And if you're gonna say, well, fuck it, because they're white, it doesn't matter that the fact that their land is being stolen too. Well, I'm serious. I'm sorry. There's something wrong with you and how you actually look at law in this land, how you look at rights in this land.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
Real good quote by Roxada. Cenk is great. Think about how much good material is made because of his stupid shit. He's YouTube gold. Fucking so awesome, isn't it, man? That's a good one there. But we'll see how Cenk in the next video doesn't do his research when it comes to the next topic, of course. And it's so funny, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. He knows the facts are out there, the evidence is out there, the photos are out there, but he still will ignore it to comport to his agenda, which is so fucking awesome. It's a good fucking video. So what do you guys think, man? Should we get into the next topic?
Yeah,
Anything else you want to
I
say?
enjoyed the topic because it gave me
good, yeah.
it gave me a really good understanding of what that thing is all about. The whole Oregon thing.
Yeah.
'Cause if you just listen to someone like the Young Turks, you will believe it's white terrorism.